For every day that you're walking, you need to make sure that you write a route card. Over here. This is a little bit of equipment that you need to be able to do this. First of all, you've got your laminated map. Second of all, I've got a very fine permanent marker there, which is a light colour. I've got a piece of string, which I've measured out to be 12 kilometres to 16 kilometres. I've got a compass to help me with my bearings. I've got a 5-point recipe here to help me with my route description. I've got a pencil and a rubber for when I'm writing the route card, and then just in case I can't remember how to do my grid references, I've got a little bit to help me over there. So this is the route card that I'm going to write on. To begin with, I'm going to need to work out where I'm starting from, put in my starting grid reference, and it's always handy to know where you're finishing, where you're going to be camping for the night. So some of the information that we need to know are how long that we're going to be doing for legs, the distance of the leg. We also need to work out height climbed, and then we need to work out time for our breaks and rest. First thing I do when planning a route is I look at my map and I orientate it so that north is at the top. So the top of the map should always be north. That will help me a little later to give me where my bearings are, to which direction I need to walk into. Also, I also know my starting position. So here in this case it's Farncombe Farm, and I know my finishing position, which in this case is Ashbury Folly. So I'm now going to take my piece of string. I've measured it off using the scale along the bottom, so I know that that white section is 12 kilometres, and I know that that black section is 4 kilometres, so I should be within the 12 to 16k requirement. And what I do is lay it down, and it's a lot easier when you've got it laid down on the floor, but I kind of work it along a path that I think I'm going to use. Okay, so I can go to here. I try and stay away from as many roads as possible, and I'm trying to follow anything that looks green, which are the green paths and byways. So if I keep following up here, all the way to the top, there we go, spot on. I'm kind of roughly lying within that black zone, which is perfect for the route. The next stage, I'm going to take my fine line pen and I'm going to start plotting the route on the map. I'm going to make little arrows so that I can clearly see where I'm going. Okay, so I'm going to go all the way up here. I'm now going to go across, like so. I know I've got a little bit on the road, and then I'm going to work my way up on this green path here. Okay, so I've done these little marks just to make sure I can still see the features of the map. To help describe the route, I'm going to try and break my route up into roughly about 10 legs. So as I'm walking, I look for any significant features. So for example here, make a little circle where there's a crossroads, and at each significant change, I'm going to write and make a little circle to mark where these points are that I need to be aware when I'm walking. So this is, for example, goes from a byway to a road, and then I'm now looking for a road to a footpath. Okay, I need to significantly turn right there. I've got a crossroads at a road, I've got another crossroad, and finally I've got my finish. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, perfect. So I've got roughly 10 points there that I can break down into different legs. So the next stage, what we're going to do is we're going to work out what the grid references are for each of these significant points. So if we look at the start for Farncombe Farm, we know that we've got eastings along the bottom, we've got northings go along the side. I can see this number, which is 31, so our grid reference is going to start with 3, 1 at the bottom, and there's one little mark there where it is, it's going to be 1. So that's our first, we've given the eastings. Okay, now the next thing that we do is we look for the number along the side, okay, along the side here, for the northing, and we look how far up. So Farncombe Farm is up in this position here. So the number there is 78. And then we look up how many little blue steps here. So we've got 1, 2, 3. So we're going to say that that mark is 783. What we do now is we now work out the grid reference for each of these. So this next significant point here, okay, is going to be 3, 0, and it goes all the way to that line there. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I would say 7. So we can write 3, 0, 7. And then if we look along the side, we have 7, 8, and we're going to go virtually all the way up to the top, and then we can say that's 9. So we've now got the grid reference for the first leg. If you want to, the best thing to do is actually write it on the map, right next to it in a little space. So 3, 0, 7, 7, 8, 9. And make sure you do that for all or each of the 10 circles that you've made on your map for your legs. So if we look at our route card now, what we can do is we can start to fill in these legs. So the starting grid reference was 3, 1, 1, 7, 8, 3. When I type this into the computer, this is going to be pre-populated, so you won't have to worry about that. So that should come up with 3, 1, 1, 7, 8, 3. The computer will do that automatically, so in this case I would just leave that blank. So as we said, the first point that we need to walk to is 307 7, 8, 9. And then that's the first stage of our route cards. I'll fill all this in now and you can see what happens in a minute. So this is something what your map should now be looking like with all the grid references marked in. And then you can put the grid references onto the sheet where the white boxes are. Skip out the grey boxes because that's where the Excel sheet will put that in there for you. Okay, so after we've worked out the different legs, there's a few things that we now need to do. So the first thing is we need to work out what direction or bearing the first or each of these legs are going to be. So it's a rough guide. So if we have a look here, we got north, south, east, west, and then in between we can put northeast, southeast, southwest, northwest. And if you want to get it even more intricate, we can go north, northeast is that direction, north or east, northeast is in this direction. So if we have a look at in this particular path, okay, we can see that it is roughly going in this direction, which in this case is going to be north, northwest, or we can say 337 degrees. Okay, so that is an approximate direction of travel. So once we've found out the direction of travel, in this case north, northwest, we are going to now measure the distance that we have to travel. And the way we can do this is we can use a piece of string. We can start at Farncombe Farm and then we can go all the way up to the next significant point of the leg, which is there. I pinch it off, and what I can do is I can use the scale along the bottom to roughly get a guide to how far that is. And if we put it on the end there, okay, and then we pinch it off there, I am looking at roughly, in this case, 1 kilometre, because each of these blue squares is 1 kilometre or 1,000 metres in real life. Each of these little blue squares, okay, is 100 metres. So we can split it up into 100 metres, 10 lots of 100 makes 1,000. If we put that back on there, so from there to there, okay, so from Farncombe Farm to the next point of contact is going to be 1 kilometre. So when walking uphill, you are going to walk a little bit slower. So it's quite good to know what height you've gained. And if we look on this map here, we've got these orange lines. On this map, between the two orange lines is 5 metres. I've worked out by looking around that we're going to go uphill. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 orange lines to go past from Farncombe Farm to this point here. So that means 6 orange lines. 6 times 5 is going to equal 30 meters of height gain from this point to this point. So to recap, for this leg of the journey, the direction is going to be north, northwest. The distance, using our piece of string to help us, okay, is going to be 1 kilometer. And then there are 6 contour lines between this, so the height gain is going to be 30 meters. So what I've done now is I've transferred this information onto my route card. So we've got our coordinates in here. We've now got the direction of travel, which is north-northwest. The distance is 1 kilometer. The height climbed is 30 meters. And this little gap here is if you want to have a little break. I'm not going to need a break for that first leg, okay? And then the next section, that's going to help us fill out the route information. So now for every leg, you need to come up with a route description. So here's a 5-point recipe. So first of all, you need to state what the type of path is. Is it a footpath, bridleway, byway, national trail, orange road, yellow road? You can find this information on the key to the map to work out what you're walking on. So we also need to know the second part is the direction. Third part is what's the distance you're going to travel. Fourth part, what features are you walking through? Are you walking through woods? Are you going uphill, downhill? Are you going through sort of like junctions, over a stream, by a stream? And then finally, you need to say to the point where you either change direction or the path type changes. So for this first section, we are walking, as we can see, is a green line with little lines on it, which is a bridleway. North-northwest, we're going and we're going to go uphill past fields for 1 kilometer. That's the distance to crossroads. So nice and simple. Bridleway, north-northwest, uphill past fields for 1 kilometer crossroads. Transfer this information into your route card under route information, and here you've got a little line, escape in emergency to. So in this case we haven't traveled very far from the farm, so I'm going to say back to the farm. Okay, in this case I've put back to the farm again, and then for route 3 the closest place to the emergency is to get to a road, so I've just written head east to road. So escape in emergency, always see if you can find roads, farms or any other buildings that you can get to. Once I've completed all the information on the route card, I can now start to transfer it to the computer. So I can start filling all the other boxes, for example, like my name or the team name. Okay, the day, for example, over here, Saturday. The date, I think we're going to be doing it something like the 26th of May. And then we can start filling in all the other boxes. So our starting grid reference is 311783. If I press enter, that then pre-populates that box there. So I go down to the next one, 307789. Press enter, that pre-populates the box there. Now for the first leg, the directional rough bearing is north-northwest. The distance is 1 kilometer. And then the height that we gain is 30 meters. What you should notice now is there's special calculations, it's all magic. It starts to actually give you the time. So for 1 kilometer, if you say you're going to be walking in for 3 kilometers an hour, if you want to, you can change this if you're a faster walker, and you can see as it changed the time for you. Okay, so for 1 kilometer now, if I'm walking at 3 kilometers an hour, that's going to take 20 minutes. And because the height climbed is 30 meters, that means it's going to take an extra 3 minutes to climb, so it's roughly about a minute per 10 meters per climbing. We've got time for stops, meals, etc. We're not going to do it for our first one. We can add that in if we need to. And so in total, to do 1 kilometre for 30 up gaining 30 metres. That's going to take 23 minutes, and that then adds on to the time that we start. We can change that start time as well if we need to. So let's say 10. Make sure you put the dots in, like, and write it as so, and then we can get 10:23. So by the end of the first leg, you should get to that first point at 10:23. Okay, now we can fill in this route direction. So we're going to go on the bridle way, north-northwest, uphill for 1 kilometre, past fields, go get my spelling right there, to crossroad. And then we said that to escape in emergency, we can just head back to the farm. That's nice and simple there. Go back along the same path. Okay, and then you just continue filling it out for every single leg. So this is an example from a route card from last year. So they filled out all their information there. So we've allowed them 2 breaks of 20 minutes and then a lunch break of 40 minutes, which is probably adequate. Then if we go down to the bottom, we can see that their total distance is 14.5 kilometers, which is spot on because they needed to walk between 12 and 16. So that means total walking time will be 4 hours 28. Them going to do 110 meters of climbing, which will take them an extra 11 minutes. Total break time, and for also to do sort of your aims and goals, is 1 hour and 20 minutes. So in total that will be 6 hours 23. So the requirement is 6 hours, so they're spot on with that. That means by leaving at 10 o'clock in the morning, they're going to get into camp or to finish at 4:23.